The YouTube notification popped up on Liam's phone with a title that made him pause. "We found the Hounds of Hollowfall, gone silent after this." The channel, UK Urban Explorers, had over 2 million subscribers. But this video was different. Uploaded 48 hours ago, it had 0 comments and the view counter was frozen at 666. Liam, a documentary filmmaker always chasing the next big story, clicked play. The video showed 3 hikers, Mark, Sarah, and Ben, deep in the mist-shrouded Hollowfall forest in the Scottish Highlands. They were investigating local legends of the Hounds, massive, shadow-like creatures said to guard an ancient burial ground. The legends say you can hear them before you see them. Mark whispered to the camera, his breath misting in the cold air. A sound like broken church bells mixed with snarling. The footage was professional, crisp. Too crisp. As they ventured deeper, the audio began picking up something else. A faint, rhythmic chiming that grew louder with each step. The hikers exchanged nervous glances but pressed on. Then, at the 14-minute mark, the camera caught something in the trees. A massive black shape moving with unnatural silence. The audio picked up Sarah's sharp intake of breath. "Did you see?" The video cut to static for exactly 66 seconds. When it returned, the forest was silent. The hikers were gone. Only their equipment remained, cameras still running. The final shot was from a dropped GoPro pointing straight up at the misty canopy. A shadow fell over the lens, and a deep chiming growl echoed before the video ended. Liam sat back, heart racing. He did what any good investigator would do. He started digging. The police report was brief. 3 experienced hikers missing in Hollowfall Forest. Search suspended due to severe weather. No bodies found. No evidence of animal attack. But it was the comments on older videos about Hollowfall that chilled him. Dozens of people reporting similar experiences. Strange sounds, shadow figures, and a feeling of being watched. All within the last 6 months. All within the same 5-mile radius of the forest. That's when Liam's own camera, sitting on its tripod across the room, suddenly powered on. The red recording light blinked twice, then focused on him. From its speaker came the faint, unmistakable sound of broken church bells ringing in the distance. The chiming from Liam's camera lasted only 3 seconds, but it left him frozen in place. The sound felt ancient, wrong, like something that shouldn't exist in this world. He immediately called DI Sarah Chin, a contact in the Metropolitan Police who specialized in missing persons cases with unusual circumstances. "Hollowfall again?" she said, her voice tense. "Liam, I can't stop you from investigating, but listen to me carefully. There are places in this world that don't follow our rules. Hollowfall is one of them." She emailed him classified files from similar disappearances dating back to 1923. The pattern was always the same. Experienced outdoors people, strange audio phenomena, shadow figures, and no remains ever found. The official reports all cited animal attacks or exposure, but the investigating officer's private notes told a different story. One note from 1978 stood out. "The forest doesn't just hide things, it absorbs them. The hounds are its guardians, and they're always hungry." Liam packed his gear and drove north. The journey to the Scottish Highlands felt like crossing into another world. The mist started gathering long before he reached Hollowfall, clinging to his car like cold fingers. At the local pub in the nearest village, an hour from the forest, the atmosphere changed the moment he mentioned the missing hikers. The bartender refused to serve him, and an old man in the corner caught his eye, shaking his head slowly in warning. But it was the village church that held the real clue. In its graveyard, Liam found a peculiar section with headstones dating back centuries, all bearing the same epitaph: "Taken by the guardians of the wood." The priest, Father Duncan, approached quietly. "They're not demons, son. he said, his eyes old and sad. They're older than that. The Vikings wrote about them. The Romans feared them. This forest was sacred long before any church stood here. He explained that the Hounds were guardians of ancient burial grounds, protecting something buried deep beneath the forest floor. They don't hunt people, Father Duncan said. They protect the threshold between worlds. But when that threshold is threatened, Liam's phone buzzed. It was a notification from his cloud storage. The original hiker's video file had been restored, with 14 additional minutes of footage he'd never seen before. The thumbnail showed one of the hikers, Ben, his face twisted in terror, pointing at something off camera. But before Liam could watch it, his car alarm blared outside. Through the church window, he saw shadowy figures moving around his vehicle. They were tall, impossibly thin, and moved with that same unnatural silence he'd seen in the video. The chiming started again, this time coming from the forest edge just beyond the churchyard. It was closer now, much closer. The chiming wasn't just sound. It was a physical pressure that made Liam's teeth ache. Father Duncan grabbed his arm, pulling him back into the church. "They know you've seen the records," the old priest said, bolting the heavy oak door. "They can sense when someone gets too close to the truth." Through the stained glass windows, Liam watched the shadow figures circle his car. They weren't quite solid, flickering in and out of existence like bad reception on a TV screen. The chiming grew louder, now accompanied by a low growl that vibrated through the stone floor. Liam opened the restored video on his phone. The new footage showed the hikers discovering a stone circle deep in the forest, much older than any known Celtic site. In the center stood a single black monolith covered in strange symbols. "This is it!" Mark exclaimed in the video, "the source of the energy readings." As they approached the monolith, the symbols began to glow with a faint blue light. The camera's audio picked up the first clear sound of the Hounds, that same chiming growl, but now layered with something that sounded almost like ancient speech. Then the video showed what really happened. The shadows didn't attack the hikers. They emerged from the monolith itself, wrapping around the three people like smoke. The hikers didn't scream. They simply faded, becoming transparent before disappearing completely. The final shot showed the shadows retreating into the monolith, the blue light fading. The forest was silent again. "That's not a burial ground," Liam realized, looking at Father Duncan. "It's a prison, and they're not guardians, they're the prisoners." The old priest nodded grimly. "The Vikings called it Dudens Kista, the coffin of death. They believed ancient beings from before human memory were trapped there. The Hounds aren't protecting the forest from us, they're protecting us from what's inside." Suddenly the church doors shook violently. The chiming was right outside now, so loud it shattered the stained glass windows. Liam saw them clearly for the first time. Creatures of pure shadow shaped like massive hounds but moving with unnatural liquid grace. Their eyes glowed with the same blue light as the monolith. One of them passed through the solid oak door like smoke, its chiming growl filling the church. It stopped mere feet from Liam, tilting its head as if studying him. In his mind, he heard words that weren't his own. "The seal weakens. The watcher must be replaced. You see the truth. You will serve." Liam understood. Now, the hikers hadn't been killed. They'd been chosen. And now he was next. The Hound's mental voice wasn't hostile. It was ancient, tired, and carried the weight of millennia. Images flooded Liam's mind. A time before humans, when different beings walked the earth. A great war. A prison built not of stone, but of consciousness itself. "The three before you were unsuitable," the voice echoed in his head. "Their minds broke. You are stronger. You see without believing, question without fearing." Father Duncan lay collapsed near the altar, unconscious but breathing. The other shadow hounds waited outside, their chiming now a soft, almost melodic background hum. Liam understood the choice. The prison needed a watcher, a human consciousness to help maintain the seal that kept these ancient beings contained. The hounds weren't the prisoners, they were the wardens, and they were dying, their power fading after centuries of vigilance. The hikers! Liam spoke aloud, his voice shaking. Alive, but empty, the hound replied. Their minds could not bear the weight. They serve as anchors. You would be different. You would understand what you protect. More images came. Liam saw what would happen if the prison failed. The ancient beings within weren't evil in the human sense. They were simply incompatible with life as humans knew it. Their very existence would unravel reality. He could refuse. The hounds would let him leave, wipe his memory, and find another candidate. But how many would they have to break before finding someone suitable? How long until the seal failed completely? Or he could accept, become part of something ancient and terrible, but necessary. Lose his normal life, but potentially save countless others. Looking at the unconscious priest, then at the patient, waiting creature before him, Liam made his choice. I'll do it! The hound inclined its head. The transition will be difficult. You will be here and not here, seeing but unseen. The other hounds flowed into the church surrounding Liam. Their chiming reached a crescendo as blue light enveloped him. He felt his consciousness expanding, stretching across the forest, touching the minds of the three catatonic hikers who were now connected to the prison. He saw everything. The ancient history, the true nature of the beings contained within, the delicate balance that kept reality intact. And he understood his new purpose. When the light faded, Liam stood alone in the church. Father Duncan was stirring, already forgetting what had happened. The hounds were gone, but Liam could still feel them, and the prison, in a corner of his mind that was now forever changed. He walked out of the church a different man. He would return to his life, continue making documentaries, but now with a secret purpose. He was the new watcher, and Hollowfall Forest had its guardian. Sometimes in his films, he would include certain symbols, certain patterns that only other potential watchers would recognize. The search for his replacement had already begun, because the prison was eternal, but watchers eventually needed to move on.